Professor Pisani says lawmakers ought to review some of the targets and goals contained in Vision 2030 due to the potential non-attainability of such goals. Professor Pisani recounted that, for instance, Malaysia shortly after World War II in 1945 introduced a law where all state tenders were strictly reserved for locals. The system, also known as rent-seeking, demanded about 80% of proceeds from such tenders to be repaid back to the state in cases where a foreign firm was contracted to do the job. He says such a system 20 years later allowed about 70% of Malaysians to own a stake of the domestic economy against a 30% ownership stake between the Chinese and Indian nationals. He says in Namibia, the current national development plans leave much to be desired as far as closing the gap between the rich and the poor. In 2004, Namibia adopted Vision 2030, which outlines the country's development programs and strategies to achieve its national objectives. Vision 2030 focuses on 8 themes to realize the country's long-term vision.
We need to think long-term, 15 years, 20 years. But dramatic action needs to be taken. Namibia needs to reboot itself. First of all, do away with the NDPs, revisit Vision 2030 dramatically, because it's not going to work by 2030, maybe by 2090.
Namibia's Gini coefficient currently stands at 0.59%, which means that 59% of Namibians are relatively poor.
Why don't we review Vision 2030 systematically and take out what doesn't work? Why don't we? It's there. It's a public document. Are we scared to admit that we made mistakes?
Pisani is a Namibian political scientist and a professor at the University of Namibia since 1998. NBC News, Windhoek.